The MCAT is hard, and the MCAT is important. If you're like me, you probably have heard that ad from our friends at Princeton Review time and time again. And honestly, they didn't lie. The MCAT is like a mental marathon in which once you start, you don't really see the end in sight. But together, we're gonna make it through. Welcome to MCAT Chaos, a survivor guide for the MCAT. A series where I show the ups and downs in every chaotic turn of studying for this beast of an exam. If you're a pre-med trying to figure out your study plan, maybe you've studied for the test before and you're trying to refine your study plan, or if you just like to see me struggle, this is for you.
What's happening? Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm! Wait.
Alright, let's talk strategy. My goal is always to reach for the stars, so I'm shooting for a 5.15. I take the exam in late July, so right now that gives me about 4 or so months to study and grind it out. My study plan is structured into 2 phases. Phase 1, content review. I have access to the Kaplan and MCAT course until right around the end of April, so I'm going to use that to the best of my ability until then. While I have it, I'll be using it for content review, reviewing their lectures, taking note, and using their QBank questions. After my Kaplan expires, I'll be switching over to UWorld, AAMC, and strictly Anki. Since I'm a kinesthetic learner, I have to write things out, so you'll see me using my whiteboard a lot. Biology is my strong suit, so I'm working on refining my knowledge rather than hammering in on it. Now, chemistry and physics, they're the villains. It's going to take a lot of coffee, whiteboard time, and vitamin D to get through those guys. I'm going to have to really focus on applying the concepts and not just memorizing. There will be cars review. However, since I work 40 hours a week, I won't be as intense in cars in this phase. I have to prioritize my time in ensuring that I can actually get through all the content, especially because I'm going to be using Kaplan. It's important to note that the content review stage for me will be based on foundations rather than just standalone topics. It's important to me that I learn how all of these topics connect, how they work together, and then understand the concept. This will ensure that I'll be able to answer questions better. Which brings me to phase 2. This will be my application and practice phase. This phase should last me from the beginning of May all the way down to when I take the test. In this phase, I'll be going all in and answering practice questions from the AAMC, QBanks, practice tests, UWorld, you name it, I'll be doing. My goal here, identify my weaknesses, refine test strategy, and increase speed. This will mean daily cars practices. I plan to do an hour to an hour and a half session in the morning before I go to work, which would require for me to wake up early. I plan to do QBank questions at work and then doing intense review after work. We'll probably end the night doing Anki. This phase is extremely important because this is how I'm going to track my mistakes and ensure that I don't make those same mistakes again. I'll be tracking myself through an Excel sheet where I will log all my incorrect answers and why I got them wrong. This is the most important aspect of this phase. By identifying and understanding why I got something wrong ensures that I never make similar mistakes. There are 3 main types of learning: echoic, iconic, and semantic. Echoic learning comes from hearing. This would be the equivalent of me listening to lectures or maybe listening to a podcast on the way to work. Iconic would come by sight. This would be the equivalent of me reading some textbooks, reviewing notes, or even flashcards would be considered iconic. But the most effective way to learn, and long-lasting, is semantic learning. This learning comes from comprehension and the connection of multiple ideas to one another. Think of it as a semantic network. This is where me tracking my MCAT questions comes into play, and also the whiteboard method. I can use both methods to grow my comprehension in MCAT topics, but not just comprehension, how other MCAT topics connect to them. This tends to be the most effective and stable way of learning. My days are jam-packed, so I have to be strategic about how I implement MCAT studying. 5:30 to 6:30, early morning study grind. It's hard, but I get through it. 7 to 3, I'm usually at work. I'll do a few Anki cards here and there, maybe a couple QBank questions, but it's not really a study time. Then from 5:30 to 9:30, I'm here, home, studying. Intense study. On the weekends, I try to get in a decent amount of study time. Every other Saturday, I do about 10 hours of study. This is because on the opposite Saturday, I usually have meetings at the church and they can run. On Sundays, I try to keep that as my rest day, but oftentimes I'm still doing at least Anki. So what should you expect in this series? Expect some live study with me's, vlogs documenting my progress, practice test breakdown, and deep dives into my weakest topic. So if you're studying for the MCAT, or if you just like to watch people suffer through it, subscribe, like, and comment. I want to know your test date, study strategies. Drop a comment with your MCAT test date and your biggest study struggles. Let's get through this together. Later.
Up all night, baby, when we gon' slide. Oh, hey, hey, baby, when we gon' slide.